These kids are
The city of Edinburgh allows the consumption of alcohol in public, but under the Edinburgh bylaw, anyone drinking in public would have to stop if asked by police. So hopefully don't get asked by police.
Here we are, Edinburgh.
We're back.
Monday,
in
the
Edinburgh.
6th of June.
Yeah.
What's
It was
that?
a busy weekend.
1 week since we started our trip, I think.
Yeah.
Because we started
Crazy.
on the 30th. I guess 8 days.
That was a fast week.
Yeah, it was. It flew by.
We did our first Enduro World Series round. I did my first pro race, and you did your first filming of an Enduro World Series.
It's true.
And we're still here. We're still going.
Made it.
We did it,
Cheers.
as far as we can tell. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I mean, it was just a great time. Like, the weather was beautiful. The place that we were staying was the ground, which was nice. It was grass.
For me, I stayed in a different place every single night.
Yeah, you did. In the pursuit of silence and happiness. Yeah.
Which actually, other than the porta potty suction truck waking me up this morning, I think I achieved last night. I got pretty good silence, flat ground, no dew forming on me all night long.
You got Nirvana last night, huh? Nice. And it was all those plants setting the vibe.
Oh, yeah. I got my little yoga session in this morning.
You're achieving, like, enlightenment pretty soon, I
Getting
think.
there.
Yeah.
Got a ways to go, probably. But
Yeah. So last time we were at Arthur's Step, also in Edinburgh.
Just
we were
over
about
yonder.
we were about to bike to Innerleithen. So we've biked to Innerleithen through some just beautiful terrain, and then right as we rolled into town, we found our friends Andrew, Miles, and Grayson headed out. So that was amazing timing.
Like, essentially the first people we saw.
Yeah, literally. And then rolled on through town, and then immediately after we ran into all the Squamish pros.
Mm-hmm.
So we ran into Miranda, Remy, Jesse, and then we also saw Casper and Richie Rude and McKay Vesna all just like staring at our bikes and asking us how it was going. So that kind of set the tone almost for the weekend in a way, because we just had a ton of people who had heard about what we were doing.
Including one of the other very first people we saw was Chris Bell or Chris Ball,
Chris Ball, I believe.
the founder of the EWS.
Yeah, that was like immediately after the Squamish people. So it was just like a boom, boom, boom. We just started to see people, and they were just like, "Oh, are you those guys?" And like, I think that carried through the whole weekend, which was wild. I don't really know how so many people heard about it, to be completely honest.
Instagram and its freaking
Yeah.
algorithm.
Yeah, but I just don't know who shared it. You know, or I think it was surely Remy posting on his story.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think that was probably where a lot of people saw it,
Okay.
who are fans of the sport.
Yeah.
And then maybe World's Enduro shared it like a week ago, so maybe people were like primed and remembered.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of mind-blowing. And then we had a kind of poor night's sleep that first night. We slept outside.
Misery. I slept at most 3 hours, and I'm pretty sure it was closer to 1.
Yeah.
Between 1 and 3 hours.
Let's talk about our sleeping setups, I guess. Like,
Sure.
so what do we have in our seat bags?
We've got a bivy sack, the helium bivy, which Outdoor Research was kind enough to comp us at the very last second.
Yeah.
I reached out to them.
Amazing.
I've got a quilt that my friend Andy Basabe, shout out to Vamos Outdoors, he's the founder, lent me. He took that same quilt, which is, I learned a quilt is a backpacking quilt is essentially a sleeping bag without a zipper. He took it on a bike trip across Europe in 2017, so it's back to its home turf. What else do we got? the climate little sleeping pads with a built-in pillow. That's pretty nice.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
clutch.
So overall, I don't know about you, but I have been really impressed with how well the setup is. Like the sleeping pad's comfortable. I've been warm
Yep.
every night and dry, and like I'm just really happy with the fact that we pulled together a decent camp kit, because we've camped every night since we last sat down and talked.
We're here in
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
Yeah. And so, for context, you might hear some train sounds. We're actually right here at the Waverley train station, and we leave in an hour
1 hour, exactly.
for London again. So we're on our way back. This
Retracing our steps.
Yep, this time we got bike space on the train locked down ahead of time.
We don't have to rely on the kindness of, or the ill misfortune of other strangers, of other passengers to get us on there.
Yeah. So sleep setup's good. Yeah, and then we had an Enduro World Series race.
Yeah, tell us about it. Your first pro World Enduro World Series.
Yeah. The schedule was cool. Like, you did most of your practice on Friday, which was about 5,000 feet of climbing, and
The royal you, not me.
yeah. And it was just really fun trails, to be completely honest. Like
They were
a lot of
rad.
people had said before, it was going to be the most like home probably of any of these races, and I think that was true. It was, treed woods for the most part, steep. It was a bit more like rutted than stuff we ride, like deeper ruts. Like you felt like you were in kind of this like channel where you could almost like hit your pedals on the side of it. Like you were like a few feet deep in the ground.
Yeah, I think the ground there is like softer and tears away more easily, like boggier.
Yeah. And then the interesting thing as well was that you started most of your stages up in this high like heather area above tree line.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting thing. The latitude is so much higher that things are alpine at a low elevation. Like it feels like alpine terrain with kind of a scrub heather kind of feeling. And then also it's light for a considerable amount of the day. So it gets light at probably like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't actually get dark until like 11 at night. Yeah, pretty interesting place to be. Just like rugged, beautiful terrain, and luckily also beautiful weather.
Yeah. No, we got super lucky with the weather, I believe, is my understanding. That's what everybody was saying.
Apparently
and
last year
I
was
believe it.
miserable. So that would have been a lot harder, I think.
Especially with us camping. We
got a
were
cannon.
We were in the tent.
Nice.
It's the Queen's Platinum year. It's her 70th anniversary as Queen, I guess.
Yeah.
So
it's a big holiday weekend that's coming to a close. Yeah.
Shit's popping off, literally.
Yeah.
Cannons.
Yeah, we're surrounded by various castles and things here. This is pretty cool. So Scotland, there's just kind of ancient history lying around. We saw some ruins of some sort of like tower that was probably used to hide away in when things were dangerous. I'm not really entirely sure.
I've been thinking of it as a one-room castle.
Yeah, exactly. And then just the rock walls that were built over probably hundreds of years.
Golly, I cannot imagine building those things. But they've lasted, unlike
really
the little wood post fences of the Midwest. They last forever, turns out.
Yeah.
Tons of sheep.
Lots of sheep.
Some gorgeous horses. Never thought I'd say that. But some really pretty horses, really healthy looking, and quite a few very pretty cows too.
Yeah.
Don't know that I would have ever described a cow as pretty, but
They look to be
here I am.
well fed. There's a lot of grass in Scotland.
There is.
It's very green grass.
A lot of these walls we talked about made pens, I don't know what you'd call it. Pasture, like fenced in, walled in little zones for the animals. But they're
Yeah.
actually just roaming around everywhere, like on the road. We were trying to figure out how many sheep get hit by cars per year because
Yeah, we didn't see any. Luckily.
they're pretty dumb, but
pretty funny.
quite cute, especially little babies.
Yeah, but yeah, back to the race, I guess. You were able to film every stage and also
Yeah.
pretty much all of practice,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was quite impressive. And yeah, what was the like media experience like at an EWS?
About the same. It's kind of like reminiscent of the Wacom World Cups. It was just
Pretty much the
hectic.
same thing.
Running
You heard it here
around.
first. EWS, Wacom World Cup,
Same deal.
thing.
No, just like sprinting around, trying to organize and maintain and figure out where everybody is, where you guys are going to be at any given point. And you were helpful. You were texting me some. Miles was texting me some. I had the start list, so I knew, what number. I could
Yeah.
keep track of what numbers were coming through.
It's pretty well organized.
And Grayson and I were just running around, getting the shots, getting the footy. Conti, excuse me.
The Connie.
Connie.
Yeah, that's the local content is Connie.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and then the Forbidden team had a tent set up, and so the team riders, Alex Storr and Reese Werner, were under that tent. And
Reese.
It's Reese.
You've already corrected me. And
It's
then
Reese Werner.
I got
Yeah.
him.
And then, and then there were two mechanics, Seth and Anthony, also known as Ant-Man, super helpful. And they were supporting all the other Forbidden riders. So we had Julia Long, who people might know from the Pink Bike Academy last year.
Okay.
She did pretty well there. And then, of course, Andrew and myself. And then we had a few other ambassadors that would come through. Yeah, it was a good scene. And
Julia is Vancouver, is that right? Or Vancouver Island, I think
she's
said?
from north of Whistler, like Pemberton.
Okay.
But
right.
then she goes to school on Vancouver Island.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was doing the pro women, and then Andrew and I were in the pro men, as well as Alex Storr and Reese Werner. And it was cool because Andrew and I our start times were all 1 minute apart, which I thought was pretty cool. So we got to ride together all day, and then Miles wasn't too far
He was
behind.
like 4 minutes behind or
Yeah,
something.
so we got to hang out and, just talk about the stages. That was a lot of fun. One crazy thing was that Casper Woolley took a big crash on stage 2. And so he basically had to get medical help, and they ended up canceling stage 2 because...
Yeah, I think he got medevaced out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the race, but we didn't really know about that because we had gone through before, because that was Casper Woolley being super duper fast meant that he was in like the top 10 people, so the last 10 to go, and we were, I was 157, so I had gone quite a long time before them.
How large was the field, do you know? How many number plates were there?
I think it was like 170 or something like that. My goal was to beat my number plate for placing, and I did that. I got 130th. I think Miles was in the 60s and Andrew was in the 80s. So those guys did considerably better than me. But then it's also funny because the times are so tight that just a few seconds bumps you up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I was a bit disappointed in myself to not be up with them because I want to be at their level, and I think in home races I'm able to keep up with them. So, but I have to remember that that was my first EWS and they have a few under their belt. And so I want to learn and try and maybe a top 100 for the next race. That's a goal.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, to be honest, like just being like, there's so many spectators, like it's crazy. Like the level
It's a
of
scene.
competition is like a World Cup at this point because the times are so tight that if you are a second slower, which is so small in the grand scheme of an enduro, you've just lost like 10 places or 20 places all of a sudden. Like
What
on a stage, for
what
example.
what was the cumulative time, or maybe
I was
better
just over
question is-
20 minutes.
Okay.
And then, like, Miles and Andrew were in the 19s,
Okay.
like the mid 19s cumulative. And then I think the top guys were getting in the upper 18s. So
Okay.
I was definitely, like, in terms of percentage, like a good percentage off, like probably like 10% off the winning. And I think I want to be only like 5% off the winning. I think I'm capable of that.
5%, no big deal.
Yeah, so like, and just historically, I think I can do better
Okay.
than I did, but I was kind of just like, whoa, like this is crazy. I'm kind of overwhelmed. Like, I also just want to like not crash and die on the first race in this adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was good. I think now I'm like, have a better understanding of how it works, and maybe can try and actually like feel like I'm racing a bit at the
Okay.
next one.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was riding the trails and pushing kind of hard, but I wasn't like in that race mindset. I felt like I was almost like looking at everything through a GoPro.
Yeah.
Or just like that weird like feeling of like, oh,
Little
what's going
third
on?
person
Yeah.
out of body deal.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it was fun.
How did it feel coming into it, having biked there? And obviously, we only biked 50 miles, you know, over the course of, well, I guess it was just one day.
Yeah.
So it's not a great, you know, parallel to what we're going to be doing over the next, biking to the next race over the course of the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
But,
we'll have a few of those days kind of stacked up.
Yeah, how did that feel?
I think the ride actually felt really good, and then like it was the rough night of sleep that we got when we got there. Like the jet lag kind of kicked in again.
Yeah.
And then we got terrible sleep, and then that we kind of had just this day of like in a dream state.
We didn't really do much.
We
at
didn't
all.
get much done,
That
and
was
like
Thursday.
I think that was probably the hardest part.
Yeah.
Luckily, we won't have jet lag coming into the next race.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm really interested to see like if my fitness versus my fatigue like takes precedent. Like, because I'll probably be gaining quite a bit of fitness by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if I can't manage the fatigue, I'll just be running myself down. So it could work really well, or
You're
it could.
you're on a pretty good diet of like gummy bears and candy. So
Yeah.
I
No, we've
think
been having some good
it'll
burritos
be
and
fine.
things, and yeah, I don't know. Like, how have you felt about the food? Like, I've felt like I've been able to keep myself mostly well fed. Like,
I've had, I think, maybe 3 portions of vegetables since I arrived. So
yeah, we're running a little bit lean on the veggies.
I've definitely been getting enough calories
Yeah,
for
cool.
sure.
Yeah, I've been like trying to seek out items that had vegetables.
Like what?
Like just literally like getting those burritos that had lettuce and things in them.
Yeah,
like
some
instead
good
of just
iceberg
getting
lettuce.
like a chicken, fried chicken filled cone.
Which
like,
you did get.
I did get, but like there's like having tomato and lettuce and stuff, and like that's something.
Yeah, but it, like relative to the norm, like I'd say my vegetable intake has dropped 85% based on
Had
compared
a
to
bunch of
normal.
broccoli on my pizza. That was fun.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, no, we have not had good. I did have a good like veggie curry last night as well. We're trying. I'm pretty much on my standard diet. You might have a normal diet that's great, but I'm just on my standard. It's just a little bit more takeout than usual.
Yeah. No, we've definitely been getting a good takeout. No, we've had some good food. That
tacos.
coffee shop and the tacos were good, but the tacos were like not vegetables.
No.
There was
those
no
have-
vegetables in
Not
it.
at all.
But no, that coffee shop, number 1
Peebles.
Peebles Coffee House.
Mm-hmm.
That place was phenomenal. Those guys were slammed all weekend.
Yeah. super
Quite
good.
stressed, but crushed it nonetheless.
Super good. Yeah.
No, there's been some good food, and we got some good beer. The Kronenberg 1664.
Mm-hmm. It's a higher alcohol content than any beer I've seen.
Five-
Otherwise,
5 whole percents.
5 whole percent. Most things are like 3 around here.
And in Europe, it's metric, so that's actually more, I think.
Oh, really?
Is that how that works?
I think a percentage is maybe a percentage.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Metric percentage.
Because they base it out of like 200.
Right.
Or 50 or something. I don't know. We'll check into that later.
I think that's imperial, you were thinking. Bikes are working good.
Bikes are working good.
The bags are working good.
Loam equipment bags have been crushing.
Yeah. I think let's talk about like the energy, or just like the kind of outsider perspective of racing EWS. I feel like neither of us had really been to an event like that. Was it cool? Was it lame? Were people nice? Were they grumpy? I don't know.
No,
what was your impression?
It was great. I was telling you earlier, we are essentially celebrities at this point at these things, which is weird.
Having never been, we just showed up and
yeah, like every person we talk to seems to have heard about the trip so far.
It's crazy.
And approach it primarily with skepticism.
But a lot of people were like pretty supportive, I think.
Pretty stoked on it for sure.
Like the guy at the coffee shop this morning, he was really stoked.
Yeah, the graphic designer for the EWS is a cool guy. I'm struggling to remember his name. I want to say it was Rob, but then we also met a Rob who is like the tech website, behind the scenes web developer for the EWS. So I'm wondering if I'm getting my names mixed up. But yeah, both of these fellas had heard about it. Kate, she seems to be managing the whole marketing content, media scene, is super stoked. She was extremely helpful and extremely kind towards us, from getting us set up on Wi-Fi and plugged into the whole media tent scene, and getting me the media pass and getting you in there so you could do some editing, to on the last night letting us post up in the media tent, like sleep there, because the forbidden tent had been torn down. Everyone, so to answer your question, everyone has been extremely friendly. And I don't think that's just because they've heard of our trip and are supportive of it. I saw that across the board. Like, he talked about how Anthony and Seth, the mechanics for Forbidden, have been helping anyone with a Forbidden bicycle, regardless of what, not pro, just people out there that are able to race the 80 or 100 level race. My rim tape got messed up on the plane and went over to Schwalbe, and they had no idea. Like, I wasn't with my bike. They have no idea who I am, and they gave me a roll of rim tape, no problem. Like, like if you're there at the race, there's a lot of technical support. They're taking care of you. And then there's also just a lot of camaraderie between the racers, in my experience. Like, was there camaraderie between videographers or photographers? Yeah, I was chatting with everybody, seeing how they were doing. Everybody was pretty stoked. I think the volunteers at the event, all the course marshals and everything, were just so stoked to be there. Cool. Mostly sort of middle-aged folks that, I don't know. A few of them, actually one guy I'd talked to, had raced cross-country in the 90s. So definitely some cycling backgrounds, but I suspect not all. I can't imagine it was all of them. There was just, just putzing around, just keeping people off the track and stuff, and just stoked to be there. Smile on their face. I think it was all good vibes. Yeah, in contrast with like a Cascadia Dirt Cup or any type of local enduro that you might experience, like that same kind of really nice atmosphere, like super fun. And I was not sure if that would still exist with Enduro World Series, and it totally did. Like, it felt like any other enduro, to be completely honest. It's just slightly more organized, and everyone is just insanely fast. Like, it's like they've, as it should be, they've taken all the top 5 riders from every local enduro scene all over the world, and they've all come together to race. And it
like Miles, who's raced last year, was saying like it's the most competitive, the deepest level of competition probably ever at this event. There was especially a strong presence of like UK riders, and it'll be interesting to see if they all make it over to Austria.
Yeah.
The people were saying that there might be less turnout at the next one, just because the UK has such a strong riding scene, and Interleithen is just such a like place to ride that I think a lot of riders have experience there. They know that it's super fun, and then they're like, I'm gonna go race EWS in Tweed Valley because I know I'm gonna have a good time and I can drive there.
Yeah.
Versus having to go to Europe. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's gonna be smaller, or maybe we're just gonna have a new cohort of like people who are coming from, you know, a local area, like, you know, maybe more Austrian riders and German riders and Swiss riders.
I was surprised to see a good cohort of US riders. There wasn't a ton of them,
Not
but
a ton, but there
was a good handful. This one guy, Aiden, that we met, that was just like, had heard about our trip somehow through his brother, I think he said. He's from the East Coast. And was just stoked, and he actually took a pretty nasty spill on practice. He was with the medic van getting kind of taped up, but I saw him on race day. I saw him come down and finish his stage looking good through the grass anyways. And
and then there were two boys with Specialized who were there. There was Max Sedlec and Jake Snow in the juniors. They both didn't have their bikes arrive, and so they were on other really nice bikes, but that kind of set their weekend on a weird foot. And so Max DNF'd for some reason, and then Jake Snow, not sure. But and then we had
Jackson
Wickland from Washington. And we hung out with him a bit. He practiced with us, and
they brought us dinner, Italian.
Super nice.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Wicklands, to Jennifer and Jackson.
We'll be seeing them at the next race, right?
Yeah, it was cool. I think he might have had a little bit of drivetrain related stuff going on.
Yeah.
I did hear his bike sounded quite rattly, and I think he'll want to sort that out before the next one. I think it was a derailleur thing, but what time is it?
It happens to the best of us. 1:20.
Cool.
I think
probably in the next 10 minutes we should probably wrap this up and mosey over there.
The last thing, and I wanted to double check his name, but the last thing I wanted to touch on was this 17-year-old from New Zealand, Matthew Fairbrother.
Yeah.
What's his deal?
Yeah, so upon arriving in the pits, we pretty soon after met Win Masters, who had heard about our trip, who was super excited to talk. It was great. That conversation, I think, will be in the other video. And he mentioned this kid, Matthew, who is doing a similar adventure to us, but he does not want to take any trains.
Like on steroids.
Yeah, this kid is next
or speed,
level.
Maybe,
yeah,
I don't know.
Right? So he wants to do 130 miles every day for 10 days straight to make it to Petsen. He is somewhere along the length of
the island,
the United Kingdom at this point. We saw him before he left last night. He's
probably
17 years old.
7:00 p.m. or something like that.
We were considering riding to Edinburgh and decided to sleep after the race. We were exhausted.
Good call.
And this kid, and I think he got 11th in U21.
Wow.
And he was taking off to go as far as he could that last night.
He probably pedaled till it was dark, which is like 10:30.
Yeah, I wonder how far he made it. I'm gonna be like, it's gonna be really hard to find updates on him. I think he's pretty like silent and on social media at the moment because
he's just doing his thing.
He's biking so many miles. Like if he can pull that off, I think Wynn said that he'll give him the Privateer Award, which is like
he better
$2,000 or so. And I was thinking about it. I was like, if I had to do my Euro trip and someone was like, you have to bike 130 miles for 10 days straight, and then we'll pay you $2,000. I don't know if that would be enough money for me to want to do that.
Hell no.
Like, huge kudos to him if he can pull it off and make it to the race.
He's working on it.
I sure hope so.
He's getting there. Just full confidence.
We had talked about trying to meet him earlier. We kind of caught him right as he was about to leave. He was
Literally,
fully like in the zone.
He was like out the door.
Yeah, and we had been like, hey, like, if money's an issue, we will, like, I would be down to help him come on the train with us if he wanted to tour with us. But my impression in just talking to him was like he was locked in. Like you couldn't be starting that with any doubts, you know, like.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even.
I do think finances are a large part of the issue. Wynn was strongly urging him to take like the new, I forget which ferry, but a different ferry than the
Dover.
The Dover ferry.
Because, longer ferry, so he could sleep on it overnight.
Yeah. But he was like, I don't have that money. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, there's no way.
Yeah.
So I'm biking him to Dover.
It is a funny thing because, and I feel like I find myself being kind of competitive with this kid because we're literally doing the same thing. If it truly is just about money, there's room in a van for him somewhere.
Yeah.
But this kid's a beast, and he's done like gnarly Everesting challenges and stuff. So I think what it really comes down to is he just wants to try to do it.
Oh yeah.
And then if Wynn can give him $2,000 after that, that's icing on the cake.
Sick. Yep.
Yeah. So I think, I'm sure money is super tight, but it's like if he was lazy and money was tight, he'd find a ride. Mm-hmm. But he's like insanely fit and insanely driven and money's tight. So this is his solution.
Yeah.
Which to some extent I understand. And to some extent maybe the difference between him being 17 and me being 23 is the difference between his trip and our trip.
I don't know though. We tried pretty hard to find somewhere to sleep at the event because we didn't want to pay for a room and we couldn't find anyone to give us some floor space. So van space, I think van space, I would beg to differ. I think it's probably that he is a 17-year-old and doesn't have the confidence to ask for van space in combination with van space. Like I saw the GT folks like literally using their feet to close their trailer because it was so stuffed with stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I got his WhatsApp info, so we'll get to know him a bit better. We'll link up with him for sure.
Yeah, I think it brings up an interesting point, which is like, if someone's gonna try this, self-supported in some way, like EWS thing, and you're tight on money, however tight on money you are, there's this balance of like, you can do things that are really hard by yourself, and then you can take the other end, which is like asking people for help and seeing it like, and it's kind of this balance of like do I ask someone for floor space, or do I sleep outside, or do I ask someone for help working on my bike, or do I work on it myself, or like just all of these little things. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's like, it's just what you're comfortable with and like what level of like just where you fall on that spectrum of like what you prefer to do,
and your confidence in your ability to just pull something off.
Exactly. Yeah. And like personally, I think both of us are like down with talking to people, like, and all these people, like the way we're doing this and we're making videos and stuff like that, like it's a more social end of the spectrum.
There's no way to do it. He's carrying a laptop, 2 laptops in our case, a full backpack. He didn't have a backpack on. He's definitely not finding a camera person to do that shit with him.
Yeah. And it's like different ways of surviving this type of challenge. There's like if someone else was going to try this, like that's kind of a decision you have to make. Like, am I a social animal, or am I like a solo, like ride 130 miles a day type person? And both of those are super sick ways that I think we'll see, but are proving to be like options for people who are trying to do this kind of thing on a little bit more of a budget. Yeah.
Or
Dirt
if we start a trend here between the three of us, you know, maybe next year there's like some company that like the Tour de France, the inspiration for this trip.
the alt tour.
The alt tour, where they just send a van along and don't help them at all.
Yeah.
And just follow along for
Totally.
the trip. Because I'll tell you what, all this camera equipment's really heavy to bike with.
Yeah.
Between,
And this extra set of wheels is also heavy to bike with.
and your laptop, your heavy laptop.
Yeah, the laptop's heavier than my wheels. Like
Yeah.
I was picking them both up, and I was like, the laptop is certainly heavier than the wheels.
With that huge charger.
Yeah.
Well-
We should probably get going.
Yeah, let's. We'll be checking in after. I don't know when. We don't know what's going on, but we'll be checking in sometime soon.
Yeah.
And until then, it's been a hoot.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going.
On to the next race.
Cheers.
Cool.